So my next speaker, I cannot express how pleased I am that she has traveled all the way from Seattle to be with us to show support for our family member, Charuta Fadnis, my colleague from Phocuswright, who's going to talk about the top headlines in global and Asia-Pacific online travel trends. It's her first time in Singapore. So we got to make sure that she comes back the next time when Singapore will be very different. Over to you, Charuta.
Thank you, Suhoon. And thank you. Yeah, it is really great to be here and, to actually get back on a plane for that long. Weird, but I felt like a newbie traveler. But there we go. I'm here and really glad to be here. So once upon a time, when we could all travel back in 2019, feels like forever ago, this is what the global travel market looked like. These are numbers that we actually showed on this stage at the WiT Forum in 2019. And we expected at the time that travel is going to continue growing, faster than GDP, global GDP at the time. And we thought we'd be at about $1.6 trillion at this point in time, by the end of 2021. The online market was growing even faster. And by 2021, our predictions said that we'd be at over half of the total travel market being booked online. In APAC, growth was faster. We expected the APAC travel market total to be around $507 billion in 2021. And online, again, that online penetration in APAC, which had been so slow to start with, was really picking up. And by this point, it would have been over half the market. But with every good fairy tale, there's a villain, and we're going through the deep, dark woods. And so here we are, a little thing called the coronavirus struck. And we saw the travel market fall 61% overall in 2020 from the previous year. That's a huge drop by any standards. And really what it could have been worse, except for we had about 2.5, 3 months that were looking really good for the market. The online travel market fell slightly less because there was nobody that could go to a travel agent to book or walk into a hotel and book. So 57%, that's still substantial. If you look at APAC, that was 58% overall drop, 54% on the online side. Domestic really, saved whatever domestic travel could happen, really saved the market. And saved is kind of like a strong word to use here. But now that we're kind of seeing the opening up here in Singapore, of course, the US seems pretty much open on the domestic side, and they're now allowing international travel. So things are looking up. And on the travel side, that means, do we have a happily ever after? I know all of us in this room know and believe that we will. And certainly at Phocuswright, we believe that we will too. So going from about $550 billion in 2020, as we grow, we get to about $1 trillion next year. That's our projection. For context, the last time that we had $1 trillion, that we reached that mark, was back in 2009, 2010. So we lost a huge chunk of travel. The good news, as we begin this long climb back, is that we're going to get back to what has become our benchmark for recovery, pre-pandemic 2019 levels, by 2024. Slightly under, but almost to that $1.4 trillion level. So what took us a decade back from 2009-10 to 2019, we are going to see that come back pretty quickly from 22 to 24. The online side, of course, our behaviors have changed. People have gotten more used to, more comfortable with the online side, even the stragglers who perhaps would not have gone to the online sites. And so we're going to see online travel grow faster and reach more than $700 billion, so more than half the market again by 2024. In the Asia-Pacific region, 444 billion in 2019, 439 by 2024. So almost a full recovery. But what's striking is that online penetration rate. In 2019, only 47% of bookings were made online. And when I say online, that means the OTAs, that means online directly with suppliers. As we've seen that behavioral shift, we were over half in 2020. This year, we expect about 56%. And by 2024, that will grow to 58%. So an 11-point jump. And by next year, that is a rate that will overtake the US. So in 2015, we were at 31% online penetration in the APAC market. And a lot of that, really China really leads in online. In China, 84% of bookings, of online bookings, are made via mobile. And as we're seeing the digital infrastructure in the country, in the other countries grow, we're seeing this huge pickup. So it's great news in Asia for online travel. And where's that gain coming from? So 2019, we saw 24% of bookings were made directly with suppliers online, and 23% were made via OTAs. The growth that we're seeing in the next 5 years is going to be on the OTA side predominantly. They're very strong OTA brands. Customers say they prefer OTAs. They like the customer service. And suppliers are increasingly relying on intermediaries like the OTAs. So from 23% to 30% is what we project OTAs to grow. That's a 30% jump right there. And that's not to say suppliers aren't growing. They're at about 20% from 24 to 29. Now, right from the beginning of the pandemic, we have been asking consumers how they feel about travel. So going back to April or so last year was when we started asking these questions. And then we have asked this question about travel all throughout. Our most recent surveys were in Europe just last month. The one thing that we hear over and over and over again, and it hasn't changed, is just how important travel is to consumers. It's part of their core identity. It's one piece that they're not willing to give up. And that's great news for us. We are seeing this in the US. Passengers have started to return to the skies a little while ago. Most of this is domestic. And this is the trend that we saw this from the beginning of the year. These are air passengers going through the TSA security checkpoints. And it's highly correlated to vaccinations as well. So as we've gone on through the summertime, we're getting very, very close to 2019 levels, which is fantastic news. That's what we want to see. Here in Asia, it's been stop and go, but it's great to see now that governments are opening up, moving away from the zero COVID policies that they have been reliant on. And Singapore obviously has, recently, that's what we heard, Suhoon said it, so did James. It's great to see that opening up. I had to laugh when I read the headlines that there were lines outside travel agents, excuse me, because the websites crashed. I was talking to a friend the other day, excuse me, and she said she's already booked her flight. She's going to London in November. So there is that appetite for travel, and we're starting to see it. And I wanted to share this. We're researchers, right? Data. This is search data, to James's point earlier. Searches are up significantly. So what you're seeing here is just the average from January through December, daily average searches, and then the 1st to the 8th of October, and then boom. And I'm just showing you the UK and the US, but every country that opened up saw a jump. So people are eager to travel. That pent-up demand is real. and it is going to be unleashed. And hopefully we're all going to be ready for that pent-up demand when it is unleashed. So I want to leave you with that. And since we're talking fairy tales, you know, Hans Christian Andersen said in his autobiography, to move, to breathe, to fly, to float, to gain all while you give. We're talking sustainability too these days. To roam the roads of lands remote, to travel is to live. I think we can all agree with that. Thank you.